Hello everyone, this is Bethesda Kev, and this is the second video in the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion series. So before you even start a new game, it's wise to have some general understandings of what race you want to pick, and what birth sign you'll want to pick, and what class you'll want to pick. So this is sort of the second video where we're looking at the birth signs. So toward the middle of the tutorial, you're given the option of picking a birth sign for your character. And we're going to look at what some of the positives and negatives of these birth signs are. We're going to go through them one by one. There are quite a few. I'm not going to really go into details. So once again, I'm on the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages. So type in Oblivion birth signs and you'll get this page. So go ahead and do a Google search, and this should be the first result, unless it's going to be a little bit different. For me, it was the first one. So the apprentice is a magic sort of driven birth sign. So it fortifies your magicka 100 points on self, but it also gives you a weakness to magic 100%. So if you have, for example, an Altmer and you choose to sign the apprentice, that means that you're going to have a 125% weakness to magic, and it's going to destroy you. You'll have all those magicka points, but ultimately, it's if you're up against the mage, you're pretty much screwed. So I mean, unless you have like invisibility and stuff, but you have to increase your skills to get there. And I'll let you search and read these for yourself. So I'm gonna just sort of go through the general stuff. The Atronach is also a very magic birth sign. It fortifies your magicka 150 points on self, and instead of regaining magicka over time, you have a spell absorption of 50% on self. And the stunted magicka is just what I was saying. You don't get your standard magicka regeneration over time. This can be helpful. You just got to make sure you have a lot of regained magicka potions, or have a lot of Welkin stones, which once you consume a Welkin stone, your magicka goes to the max. But you'd have to have quite a few of those. So I don't usually take the Atronach. It's helpful against mages a little bit because you can because of the spell absorption. But for someone who plays the game like I do, it's not really all that helpful. But if you're doing a mage, maybe even a battle mage build, depending on which race you take, the Atronach doesn't really help my play style. I'm more of a combat-oriented player. So I'm more into melee weapons and blocking with my shield and all that. The Lady is a birth time which affects attributes. So I use the Lady frequently for almost any character that I make. I like Argonians, so I usually choose the Lady for Argonians. It fortifies willpower 10 points and endurance 10 points on self. So if you have deficits in those areas, like you create an Argonian, that'll put the attributes up to the base, or the starting point for most other races. And the advantage to that is with the 10 points endurance, more health points, obviously. And willpower, regaining magicka a little bit quicker, and also being able to resist magical attacks a little bit better. Then we have the Lord. I don't think I've ever used the Lord. Because of the Trollkin ability, which is a permanent weakness to fire 25% on self. The Blood of the North, lesser power, so that would be under your spells. Restore health 6 points for 15 seconds, so 90 points total on self. You can cast it multiple times per day at the cost of 50 magicka. So, a little bit costly, but if you are like, if it's right after you battled something, it shouldn't be too bad. The only race that I might suggest the Lord for are the Dumner, because they have a 75% resistance to fire. So if you take the Trollkin ability, it just reduces your resistance to fire from 75 to 50%. So it's not game breaking if you use it for a Dumner. I've never used Lover. It provides a greater power, so you can only use it one time a day. So it's the Lover's Kiss greater power. It paralyzes your opponent 10 seconds on touch. At the cost of 120 points of fatigue on yourself. You can only use that once per day. Then we have the Mage. It's just a permanent increase of 50 points of Magicka on your character. And you could use that for a Mage build. You could use it for a Warrior build. You could use it for any build, in my opinion. And that's basically what it says in the tips there, is that it's a bonus without any side effects. The ritual provides 2 powers. The Blessed Word, lesser power. Turn undead up to level 25 for 30 seconds on target. Multiple times per day at the cost of 40 Magicka. I've never used it. I've used Mara's Gift, greater power. Restore health 200 points on self once per day. But you got to pick and choose when you use that. I don't usually use the ritual. It just restore health. You can make potions for that. You can use spells to restore health. I just don't. I don't ever really use it. The Serpent, I've never used this one either. It provides 1 greater power. Can be cast once per day. And has the effects of damage health 3 points for 20 seconds on touch on someone else. Cure poison on self. Dispel 90 points on self. So like if there's a overtime spell on you, and damages your fatigue 100 points. So that's sort of like the cost of casting it. There are also Doomstones. I forgot to mention that. And it's down here in the tip section. You can find those all around Cyrodiil. But a lot of times I don't even worry about the Doomstones. I just play the game. The Shadow is a burst sign which provides the Moon Shadow greater power, which makes you invisible for 60 seconds once per day. I don't use invisibility in this game. I never have. I don't. It can save your character's life for sure, but I'm just too much of a. I'm more like a Klingon when I play. So me retreating or becoming invisible, it's rare. But at the same time, if I know I'm up against a powerful enemy, I will retreat. The Steed just fortifies your speed 20 points. It's a permanent boost to 20 points. So like if you have, let's say, an Imperial, you can use the Steed to boost up your speed. Fortifying speed past 100 is even more beneficial. Whatever. I don't even think about that. I think about what helps me at the beginning of the game, not what helps me at the end of the game, which is probably the reason why, by the middle levels, 15 or so, I really start getting pissed off because everything's so hard. The Thief fortifies attributes of agility, luck, and speed, 10 points on self. So this is also very helpful for like a Breton character. And luck doesn't like specifically affect anything to a great degree. It just affects everything in the game. So that's the Thief. I really don't. I've used it a few times on like orc characters. All right, the Tower. I've used the Tower before. The Tower key, greater power, open an average lock on target once per day. That's helpful if you are just plain sick and tired of lockpicking, which sometimes happens with me. And the Tower Warden greater power reflects damage 5% for 120 seconds on self once per day. I think that would be very helpful if you're a warrior, because you're in there and you're in the middle of everything. So I would suggest that if you're doing like a warrior build. Yeah, so that reflect damage. It's just that I was just reading the notes for a second. And then the warrior is a boost, a fortification of endurance and strength. So when I create a wood elf or Bosmer character, I always pick the warrior to fortify strength 10 points, get it back up to what the base is at the beginning of the game. And the big perk for that is I think the fortify endurance and strength are both very helpful, but the fortify endurance is the most helpful because of the endurance is tied to your total health. So when you're picking a sign, you can think of it a couple ways. You can think, what's going to help me at the beginning of the game, which is what I do. I don't like having to really grind at the beginning levels. But you could also think of what's going to help me in the long run, what's going to help me toward the end of the game. And so some of these are more helpful when it comes to like the end of the game. Like, I think the reflect damage is probably very helpful later in the game. Invisibility is probably very helpful later in the game. But most of the time I pick either the lady or the warrior. Mostly because I play races that have those deficits at the beginning of the game, and then I choose that birth sign to sort of counteract that deficit. Alright, so in the next video, we're going to take a look at classes. So in the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion, there are pre-made classes. We're going to look at the pre-made classes, and I'll make some suggestions along the way. Everything I say is a suggestion. You can ignore me and do whatever you want. That's the beauty of the Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. That's the beauty of the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim. You can absolutely ignore everyone's suggestions and just go about your own way. And sometimes it will work well, and sometimes you'll be totally frustrated. So next time, we'll take a look at pre-made classes, and I may even add a little segment where I create a custom class and just sort of go over some of the ins and outs of that. So until next time, everyone, take care of yourselves, and I'll talk to you soon. Goodbye for now.